It has been a turbulent week for the semiconductor industry, and nowhere was the impact felt more sharply than in the stock prices of Micron Technology and SanDisk. On the surface, the news seemed straightforward. A major technology company announced a breakthrough in artificial intelligence, and investors immediately began selling off shares of memory manufacturers. But to understand why this happened, you have to look past the ticker symbols and examine the actual technology that drove the panic. The core of the story lies in a new memory compression algorithm developed by Google and how it fundamentally changes the requirements for running large language models. To grasp the significance, you first need to understand how artificial intelligence currently operates. When a system runs a large language model, it needs to store vast amounts of data in memory so it can access it instantly. This is known as dynamic random access memory. Traditionally, the more powerful the model, the more memory it requires. This created a straightforward economic relationship where more advanced artificial intelligence meant more chips needed to be manufactured. Companies like Micron and SanDisk built their business models on this premise. They expanded capacity because the software demanded more space. Google announced a compression technique that changes this equation entirely. Instead of requiring more physical memory to store the model weights, their new algorithm allows the system to compress data on the fly during the inference process. Inference is the phase where the model processes input and generates an output. By compressing the data while it is active in the memory, the system can run larger models using significantly less physical storage space. This is not a minor optimization. It is a structural shift in how software interacts with hardware. Consider this analogy. Imagine you are packing a suitcase for a long trip. In the past, if you wanted to bring more clothes, you needed a larger suitcase. You bought bigger bags to accommodate your needs. With this new technology, it is as if you discovered a way to fold your clothes so efficiently that you can fit 3 times as much into the same suitcase without crushing the fabric. The capacity of the suitcase has not changed, but the effective utility has skyrocketed. For the manufacturers of the suitcases, this is a nightmare scenario. If you can fit more into the existing bag, you stop buying new bags. This is the precise fear that gripped the market. Investors realized that if software can make memory more efficient, the demand for raw memory capacity could plateau or even decline. The stock sell-off represents a classic overreaction where the market prices in a worst-case scenario of commoditization before the technology's actual adoption timeline is clear. When Google made the announcement, the immediate thought of many traders was that the hardware demand curve was broken. They assumed that the need for high-bandwidth memory would vanish as software efficiency improved. However, the reality of the semiconductor industry is more complex than a simple substitution. While compression reduces the need for volume, it does not eliminate the need for quality. The memory still has to be fast enough to handle the decompression process without introducing latency. If the compression slows down the inference too much, the model becomes useless. Therefore, the industry is shifting from a volume game to a performance game. Chip makers can no longer rely on selling more chips to grow their revenue. They must pivot towards value-added services and higher performance tiers that compression cannot fully replace. Here is the thing that often gets missed in the panic. Software-driven efficiency gains can rapidly devalue hardware inventory, signaling a need for chip makers to pivot towards value-added services rather than pure capacity expansion. This is a structural shift in the semiconductor industry. The market is currently facing a divergence between short-term panic selling and long-term industry adaptation. Investors are trying to decide if this is the beginning of the end for traditional memory sales or just a temporary adjustment period. There is a potential buying opportunity for those who believe memory demand will eventually outpace compression efficiency gains. As artificial intelligence models continue to grow in complexity, the absolute amount of data being processed will increase. Even with compression, there is a physical limit to how much you can compress before you lose the intelligence of the model. Eventually, the demand for raw speed and bandwidth will outstrip what compression can optimize. The companies that can provide the fastest, most reliable memory for these compressed workloads will still be essential. The event highlights a broader trend where software can devalue hardware assets. This is not unique to memory. It has happened with storage drives, with processors, and with network equipment. When software finds a way to do more with less, the hardware suppliers must adapt or face obsolescence. The market reaction was a signal that investors are aware of this risk. They are pricing in the possibility that the hardware suppliers will lose their pricing power. In the long run, this forces the entire industry to innovate. If you cannot sell more chips, you must sell better chips. This means focusing on energy efficiency, lower latency, and higher reliability. The manufacturers that survive this transition will be the ones that stop viewing themselves as commodity producers and start viewing themselves as performance partners for the software companies. They will need to work closer with the developers to ensure their hardware can handle the new compression standards. So, what does this mean for the future of the industry? It means a period of consolidation and strategic repositioning. The stocks of Micron and SanDisk may have tumbled, but the long-term demand for memory has not disappeared. It has simply changed shape. The market is currently pricing in a worst-case scenario, but the actual technical reality is a transition period. As the new compression algorithms become standard, the hardware will need to evolve to support them. The companies that adapt will find new growth vectors in high-performance segments. The ones that do not may find themselves left with inventory that is no longer competitive. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.